Sony Xperia 1.4 brings some stellar creative features. With its continuous optical zoom allowing for photography and its ability to shoot 4K 120 fps footage on all three cameras, a great tool for video. It's also a well-rounded phone with a good-looking display, powerful processor, and long-lasting battery. However, it's rough around the edges with a fingerprint scanner that struggles to pick up your print, and a price that will likely put off many buyers. It's hard to know whether to class this Sony Xperia 1.4 review as an analysis of a consumer-grade smartphone or a professional-level creativity tool designed for working artists as the former. It's almost impossible to recommend, but if you treat it as the latter, it's hard to put down. This is an obscenely expensive phone that just can't compete with rivals like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra or iPhone 13 Pro Max for average phone fans. It has a clunky design and unassuming software, and it doesn't rely on AI to take vibrant and captivating photos. Jump to release date and price. Design. Display. Camera. Performance and specs. Software. Battery life. Scorecard. Should I buy it? Also consider. But Sony knows that, and it isn't aiming at the kind of consumers who buy the first handset they see on a store shelf. No, the Xperia 1 series is aimed at professional content creators with a range of bespoke photography, videography and, new to the Mark IV, audio recording features. This is the 4th-gen version of Sony's top-end line of Android smartphones, following on from the Sony Xperia 1.3, and accompanied by a mid-range Xperia 10.4. These premium devices rarely have huge changes over their predecessors. Sony instead opts to tweak specs and bring useful new features for creatives. The big new feature here is the continuous optical zoom, with the telephoto lens moving between 3.5x and 5.2x without having to use digital zoom. It's a really useful mode for photographers who like long-range shots. Other big upgrades include the rollout of 4K and 120 fps video recording on the 3 rear and 1 front-facing camera, an audio recording app that lets you layer, clean and mix sound. Functions for mobile games streaming, and a bigger battery than before. Sony's phones are already considered some of the best devices for creatives. And the new additions to the Xperia range ensure that Sony is keeping head-to-head with Samsung and Apple for that crown, though admittedly the Xperia's camera is designed for more technically minded users than the Galaxy or iPhone point-and-shoots. The big problem we found was that the side-mounted fingerprint sensor was incredibly inaccurate, and it failed to unlock the phone more times than it succeeded. This has been a consistent problem with Sony's flagships, and it boggles the mind that the company hasn't fixed it yet. There were also a few software issues, like video playback not working on some of the key video recording apps crashing, and the inclusion of bloatware that we wouldn't expect on a pricey device. Yep, this is an expensive phone. It will even cost you more than some ultra-suffix devices or foldable phones. Even our price and availability section below isn't for the faint of heart. Sure, you get lots of unique and useful creative features for that price, but given the cost of living crisis around the world, it seems a bit much. How many starving artists have $1,600 to spend? We enjoyed our time testing the Sony Xperia 1.4, but likely wouldn't recommend it to the vast majority of our friends, at least the ones who aren't creatively inclined. But for the minority who'd enjoy the Cinema Pro apps, the continuous camera zoom or the 120 fps recording, and could also afford that price tag, we'd wholeheartedly recommend this device. Some of these are incredibly useful for creative types. Photo Pro feels like a Sony camera with its depth of features, even down to the mode carousel that lets you choose between modes like Program Auto, Manual Exposure, and the standard basic mode. Cinema Pro gives you a huge amount of control over cinematic video to let you shoot movies on your phone. There are lots of built-in tools for capturing content, but Music Pro is one of the rare ones that actually let you edit what you capture. We're hoping future Sony phones introduce ways to mix or edit photo and video. We liked Bravia Core. It let us catch up on all the Sony movies we'd missed in the past few months. But with no download function, and the phone having to stream 4K video to play, we found it kept buffering through each film. There are select third-party apps built in, and they mostly fit within the phone's remit of an entertainment device. There's Tidal, Prime Video and Netflix, for example, with Booking.com. Amazon Shopping and LinkedIn being the three disappointing outliers that shouldn't be on the device. Thanks to its tall display, the Sony is really useful for multitasking, as there's enough space to put two apps side by side, and the refresh rate also makes navigating the phone's menus feel smooth. A welcome upgrade the Mark IV Xperia gets from its Mark III predecessor is in the battery capacity, with a 500 mAh bump taking the power pack to 5,000 mAh. We actually complimented the Xperia 1ii's battery life in our review, but bigger is always better. Despite having a fairly large 4K screen, constant 5G connectivity and lots of background apps running all the time, we were consistently impressed by the Xperia's battery life. It reliably saw us through a whole day of standard use, whether that meant a quick check of social media now and then, regular texting, Google Maps use and music streaming. That wasn't the case when we used the Xperia for some of its pro features. As you'd expect, we couldn't spend hours recording 4K video and expect it to last through the day. But even through intensive periods it continuously impressed us. Charging speed is a little less impressive though. Sony decided to stick with the same 30W wired charging that it used in previous flagships, and given that some phones in 2022 go all the way up to 150W, that's just far too slow. Sony states this speed is to stop the battery health deteriorating as quickly, and that's a fair reason. Until you consider that some fast charging phones have methods to stop the super speeds from ruining the battery.